Have you ever prayed so desperately for someone to stay that it never crossed your mind that the very moment God said no, He might have been answering the greatest prayer of your life? It's strange, because sometimes the very thing we think we've lost is actually the very thing God was rescuing us from. Sometimes we cry over something that years later we end up thanking God for taking away. But today, I don't just want to talk about a relationship. I want to share 3 hidden signs with you. 3 signs that may reveal God is rescuing you from a relationship, even though you still can't see the truth. And believe me, the 3rd sign is something most people don't understand until years after the relationship is over. Not sign 1. When your peace quietly begins to disappear, the hardest part isn't that someone leaves your life. The hardest part is that after they're gone, a part of your heart is still waiting for them to come back. You still check your phone. You still whisper to yourself, maybe this time will be different. Maybe one day they'll realize how deeply I loved them. Maybe we just need one more chance. But here's a question. What if the thing you've been calling love all this time has been quietly stealing your peace? What if some people don't enter our lives to stay? What if they come simply to show us something that we never could have seen until they left? At some point in life, we all have someone we believe we simply can't live without. Maybe it was a relationship where you imagined your entire future together. The home you dreamed of sharing, the moments you thought you'd experience side by side, even the name you imagined giving your future children. Everything had already been built inside your mind. Yet somehow, something never felt completely right. Not because you were always fighting, not because everything was obviously broken. In fact, that's exactly what made it harder, because when someone is completely wrong for you, walking away is easy. But when beautiful moments still exist, when they're still kind sometimes, when a part of your heart still whispers, maybe it can still work, that's when letting go becomes one of the hardest battles you'll ever fight within yourself. Maybe that's why we so often ask God, why won't you let this relationship work? But perhaps the real question is, God, what are you protecting me from that I still can't see? But wait, because this is exactly where most people make their biggest mistake. They believe losing their peace is simply the price of being in love. But there's a painful truth. If a relationship slowly steals your peace, perhaps God is giving you His final warning before your heart breaks completely. Because we usually only see what's right in front of us. A message, a smile, a memory, a promise. But God sees what hasn't happened yet. The days that haven't arrived, the wounds that haven't opened, the tears you haven't cried. And maybe this is the very first sign, not that everything suddenly falls apart, not that some dramatic event happens. Sometimes it's simply that a small piece of your peace quietly disappears, the peace you once had. There was a time when talking to that person made you feel safe, but now, after every conversation, you spend hours overthinking. You replay every word. You search for mistakes inside yourself, and you keep asking, what did I do wrong? Maybe nobody else notices, but deep inside your silence, something is changing, and that is the very first sign you should never ignore. Sign 2. When you slowly lose yourself, just to keep someone, sometimes the strangest part of the story is this: God isn't always trying to punish you when He takes something away. Sometimes you lose something because keeping it would have slowly taken you away from yourself. But when you're living in the middle of that pain, you can't see the truth. All you can see is an empty space. All you can feel is someone's absence. And you keep asking yourself, why did the person I fought so hard for still leave in the end? But maybe that's not the right question. Maybe you should be asking yourself, what parts of myself was I losing just to keep this person? Because sometimes, before a relationship comes to an end, something quiet begins to change inside you. Little by little, you stop being yourself. The words you used to speak so freely, you keep to yourself. The things that truly mattered to you, you begin to minimize. The boundaries that once protected your heart, you slowly erase them one by one, just to make someone stay. And perhaps the most painful moment comes, the day you stand in front of the mirror and realize that in order to be chosen by someone else, you were forgetting who you really are. Real love should never force you to prove your worth. It should never leave you wondering every single day, if I say what's really on my mind, will they leave? If I show my true self, will I lose them? A relationship built on fear, even if it's called love, can never bring peace. But wait, this is exactly where so many people make the biggest mistake of their lives. They believe if they just wait a little longer, compromise a little more, change themselves a little more, eventually everything will work out. But here's the painful truth. Sometimes, every step you take to hold on to the wrong person takes you one step farther away from the person God created you to be. And when that happens, even if the relationship survives, you may have already lost yourself. But there's something remarkable about all of this. Very often, when God removes someone from your path, the first thing he gives back isn't that person. The first thing you are meant to find again is yourself, the person you were before the relationship, the one who had dreams, the one who still made time for God, the one who never measured their worth by whether someone texted back. And maybe that's exactly why some of God's answers feel like silence at first. Because while we're waiting for someone to come back, God is quietly bringing us back to ourselves. But the most important sign is still ahead, the one that many people don't recognize until years after the relationship has ended. And perhaps once you hear it, you'll never look at the painful moments of your past the same way again. Sign 3. When God reveals the truth through the people who truly love you, there's one more sign, one that many people don't recognize until much later. Sometimes God doesn't answer our questions directly. Instead, he chooses to speak through the people who genuinely love us. Maybe it's a close friend who quietly says one day, I don't know why, but I feel like you're not as happy as you used to be. Or maybe it's someone in your family who simply looks at you and asks, are you really okay? But perhaps your first reaction is to defend the relationship. You say, you don't understand. Every relationship has problems. We'll figure it out ourselves. And maybe you're not entirely wrong, because other people aren't always right. But sometimes, those watching from the outside can see what we cannot see while we're lost in our emotions. Sometimes, God speaks through the people who love you by placing just one simple question in your heart. Are you fighting for something that gives you life? Or are you simply afraid of losing something? Because there's a profound difference between love and fear. Love helps you grow. Fear only makes you cling. It keeps you fighting. Not because you're alive, but because you're terrified of losing something. And so often, years later, people finally realize the very thing they believed they couldn't live without was the very thing keeping them from truly living. But here's a truth that may be difficult to hear. Sometimes God doesn't remove the wrong person from your life until you're ready to understand why they had to leave. Because if that person simply disappeared, while you remained the same, you might repeat the very same pattern with someone else. Sometimes God doesn't change your circumstances first. He changes you first. He gently loosens the unhealthy attachment you've built. He slowly frees your heart. And he teaches you that your worth has never been determined by whether someone stays or walks away. Maybe that's why some of God's greatest answers first look like heartbreaking losses, because all we can see is the empty space. But God sees the beautiful future that is still being built. And maybe today, you still don't understand why everything happened the way it did. Maybe hearing their name still makes your heart ache. Maybe some nights you still whisper to yourself, what if they had stayed? But some answers only arrive after you've made it through the storm, just like Joseph, who spent years without understanding why his journey had to pass through a pit and a prison, until one day he finally realized what he thought was the end of his story was only one chapter in the story God had been writing all along. Maybe you're living through one of those chapters right now. A chapter where you believe you've lost something, but perhaps you're actually getting something back yourself, your peace, your confidence, and a deeper relationship with God. So if a door has closed, if someone walked away, if the prayer you've whispered every night wasn't answered the way you hoped, don't assume God was silent. Sometimes God's greatest act of love isn't what he adds to your life. It's what he refuses to let enter it. Because God doesn't only see what you want today, he sees the person you're becoming tomorrow. Maybe you think God is taking one story away from you, but perhaps he's rewriting your life. Not simply so someone will love you, but so you can finally learn to see yourself through the same loving eyes with which God has always seen you. And maybe when you finally look back, you won't say, God, why did you take them away from me? Instead, you'll quietly whisper, God, thank you for taking away something I didn't yet know I needed to let go. Because some doors aren't closed to leave you standing behind them. Some doors close so you'll finally discover the path that was always meant for you. And if this video made you pause, even for a moment, and reflect on your own journey, maybe that's because someone else is fighting a difficult decision right now and needs this message just as much as you did. If you'd like to keep growing in faith, finding peace, and discovering who God created you to be, stay with us and subscribe to the channel, because maybe the next video will be the answer you've been praying for all along.